Hey there, welcome to Contracts and Chaos. My name's Alyssa.
And I'm Brenna, and we're here to tell you that you are not alone in the mayhem of this real estate industry.
We're keeping it real and sharing our stories, strategies, and successes in today's real estate world.
So come join us every Tuesday while we talk contracts and chaos. Recording. Go for trigger warning.
All right, guys, today we are going to talk about a really touchy subject. And before we begin today's episode, I want to issue a trigger warning. This episode is going to involve discussions of suicide, mental health struggles, and emotional challenges that many in our community are facing. These topics can be very sensitive, and we recognize that they may bring up difficult feelings for some listeners. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide or mental health issues, we encourage you to reach out for help. Resources like the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline are available 24/7 at 1-800-273-TALK. You can also dial 988 or you can text HELLO to 741-741 to connect with a crisis counselor. Please take care of yourself while listening. If at any point you feel overwhelmed, it's okay to pause, step away, or just skip this episode altogether. Your well being is what matters the most. Okay. With that being said, Brenna and I, if you follow the Charlotte real estate groups or if you're part of our network here, we lost a really amazing person last week. Unfortunately, Michael Corbett became a victim of suicide. And so we wanted to take a moment because it's also National Suicide Awareness Month to talk about mental health within real estate and to make sure that everyone has the resources they need to hopefully prevent anyone else from becoming a victim of suicide. Ooh, that was really hard to
This is going
say.
to be a hard episode.
That was really,
This is
really
going to be a
hard to
hard
say.
episode.
Okay.
This is a weird industry to be in. It's been described as being like alone on an island, and that is pretty true. I mean, it's a dog eat dog world out there. It's aggressive, it's lonely. It's one of those things that people don't really talk about. And honestly, if you knew Mike, if you followed his social media, he was known across the country, with all of his followers and everything. And he was such an upbeat, happy, bubbly, go-getter kind of human being. And to meet him in person was just to like, gosh, he just emanated all things joyous. And to hear his backstory, like we have all had past issues and struggles, and he just seemed like he had gotten his shiz together. You know what I mean? He was happy, he was working, he was very successful, and everybody really did adore this man. And I think that just goes to show that social media, we all know it's a liar. Like social media is a lie. Somebody can be so happy forward facing on a screen, and you could never know what happens when that red light, the recording light goes off, and when you're sitting home alone in the dark and what's happening with you right there. So, I mean, and this has been an effort from a lot of groups locally or even nationally, like stop being so put offish with real estate. Like we are all in a industry together. Ideally, we should be working with people who are wanting the same thing on the other side, and it should be a collaboration and like working with each other and pushing each other to be better and more successful while making sure that we're not stuck somewhere in the trenches. So, that's
Yeah, as I was doing research for this episode, I found that real estate, depending on which resources you look at, realtors are somewhere between number 5 and 7 in the most likely to commit suicide based on career type. Um, it's 1.38 higher than the average person. And to put that into perspective, doctors always have the number one ranking. And sometimes they break that out into more specific of like surgeon or general practitioner, but their rate is only 1.87 more than the average person. So this is something that affects our industry greater than most industries. And I think some of that, oh crap, I just did something. I think some of that, most of that, I think someone described it the other day, like we are fed this hustle culture. Um, it's always get the next deal. Where's the next lead coming from? Um, you know, there's a lot of this could be the last one, you don't know. Like, I don't know. And you've probably heard me say it on this podcast before, like in passing, like, okay, I've got 3 under contract or so however many closing next month, but I don't know where the next one is, and that makes me nervous. I mean, we're commission based. That pressure and that stress can really get to you, or like we're constantly expected to be on the clock, to be working. I even had another agent call me last night because we had a deal potentially falling apart. And he said, the lender and I are going to call you in about an hour on a group text. And I said, no, you're not. Like, no, sorry, that's going to be 8 o'clock and I'm done for the day. Like, we can discuss all of this. It's not affecting closing right now. So, I also, Brenna, you brought up a good point of like the loneliness of the job. This can be, and this is something I'm so thankful I have not experienced um, to a certain point. But I've always, since day one, tried to build a network of other agents because, yes, I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to work like have a 9 to 5, but I don't want to be alone either. So I'm so thankful that I have you, that I have Aaron, that I have this network I can reach out to when I need them. Um, because it can be. And that isolation, that loneliness, that feeling of constant hustle, constant competition. Because one of the things I can't stand in our industry is like the end of the year when you see people posting their stats. And I think we've discussed that before. Like, I sold this volume this year. I helped this many families. Well, okay, that's awesome. But just because maybe I haven't doesn't mean I'm less successful because my success looks different than someone else's. Um,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of people in this last year or last 2 years now have struggled with the market volatility. Like it, it went for some people from feast to famine because they got comfortable,
Yeah.
and that puts a lot of stress on you. If you suddenly went from a certain number of deals a year to half of that, but your whole life is built on that certain number, that's going to add stress. Um, I really want to cover, and I don't want us to preach for 45 minutes. I want us to be cognizant of time and not to put too much in this, but I do want to talk about the signs of the struggle. I want to make sure people who are listening to this know what to look for in your friends and family, or maybe even yourself. Um, hmm, this is really hard today. um, there's based on,
That's why we wanted to do this too, because it's like it is kind of fresh, it is kind of real. And I mean, everybody has bad days, but there's there's things leading up to it that sometimes can be picked up on and sometimes can't. You know, for one, me looking back, was I like, "Oh wow, I really didn't see that much from Mike in the last couple of weeks?" Yeah. But what I didn't think about it in the moment, you know, it wasn't like a, "Oh, hey." I mean, and Mike and I didn't talk, you know, but he was one of those people that was on it all the time. And then after this all happened, you're like, you could see it. If you look back, you could see the withdrawal, the change in how he presented himself and things like that. And I think that that's something that even at me, and I've struggled with anxiety and depression for years and years, and that's something that you have to be really hyper aware of when you're like, no, I don't want to go do that. And it's something that normally you would be like, "Oh, hell yeah. I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna be at the PTO meeting. I'm going to all the practices." All of the things that you just like, you're like, "You know what? No. No." And you just wanna sit and be alone. It's the worst thing. The worst thing you can do. If you're not, like, responding to emails or just like, "I'll do it later." And it's just, like, dejected, you know, just like, you just lost interest in those things. It's just something to be aware of, you know?
yeah, that or an escalation in substance abuse or other coping mechanisms. Um,
Mhm.
Alcohol is a depressant. It's just going to make things worse. But those other coping mechanisms can look different than you expect too. if someone is suddenly, like, running all day, like, physically going for runs, like, there's something that can be a coping mechanism. There's all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be substance abuse.
Mhm.
So if you see your friends or your colleagues suddenly exhibiting some of these behaviors, talk to them. I mean, you don't have to ask them directly, but reach out. The thing I
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is, like, start the conversation. I'm bad at it too. Ask my friends. When you get busy, like, sometimes you don't reach out to friends or family members as often because, like, you're working with these clients that need hand-holding 24/7, you know? But sometimes, and I mean, me personally, there's been times in the past that I've like, "Oh, hey, I was thinking about you," you know what I mean? Reach out to people and they're like, "You have no idea what kind of dark hole I've been in the last few weeks. It was great to talk to you," right? And I don't ever wanna say that like, it can make a difference between life and death, but sometimes I do believe that that is the case, that sometimes people are just waiting for anybody to notice, to realize, and maybe point out something that they haven't even taken to heart themselves, that they don't know why they feel the way that they do, but somebody's like, "Hey, you've, like, seemed pretty withdrawn. You seem tired. You seem edgy." Like, all of those things can be signs of depression, and that's just it's a slippery slope. It really is. So, make the phone call, send the text, send the goofy meme, like, whatever conversation door opener. You don't need to go and be like, "Hey, you're probably depressed and I need you to go to therapy." Like, that's really not gonna help. Honestly, coming from somebody who did go to therapy, nobody wants to hear, "You should probably talk to somebody." Okay? But
Well, and that's I mean, not to get too personal, but that's something I've been beating myself up about. You mentioned, Mike wasn't someone we talked to all the time. He is someone I used to be very close to. He did my first listing photos, he did my first listing video. Mike was the type of guy who, during COVID, knew I'd be home alone on Christmas, which wasn't a big deal for me. You live far away from family, you get used to doing Zoom Christmases. Um, but Mike literally dragged me out of my house and said, "No, you're coming to my house, even if it's just for Christmas movies and Chinese when I'm done with my family for the day." Um, and I'm kicking myself because Mike gave me a ton of advice at the first beginning of my career. And the week before this happened, I had a fleeting thought of I really should reach out to Mike and let him know and thank him and say, "Hey, all the things you told me to do, I've been doing and they're working, and thank you." And that would not have may not have saved him, but from now on, I'm gonna send the text, even if it's to someone I haven't seen or talked to in years. Um,
Mhm,
because who knows, maybe that is the one message. Maybe that is the door opener. So openly have those conversations. Get coffee with your friends, invite them out. Send send the coffee to their house or whatever it is to just even let them know, "Hey, we're thinking about you." Like, just do it. Send the card, whatever it is. Have the tough conversations if you really need to. I know someone close to me is was really struggling with this when it happened. They have a history of a scare, and excuse me if that's not the right way to reference that. Um, and I was hyper alert last week. I to the point where I almost messaged their husband to be like, "Hey," but I knew he was well aware of what was going on and was stepping up. We want to talk about resources. Um, Obviously, in our trigger warning, we mentioned the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. You can always dial 988. You can text hello to 741-741 to talk to a crisis counselor. I did, while I was researching this episode, found some resources. Some MLSs have resources, some state boards, NAR had stuff on their website. Um, so check those. There's online therapy now that's not stupid expensive. If you have health insurance, see if that will help cover it. I know when I was seeking a therapist in a previous life, I told them, I said, "I can't afford this and my health insurance won't cover it." And they asked me, "What can you afford?" Um, so maybe have that conversation with them And a lot of times they're open to that, and if they're not, then find someone who is. Um, if you feel inclined, if you have to, reach out to your broker. They may have a resource you're unaware of. Um, there are industry specific, there's probably support groups that if you look for them, they are there. Also, and we've touched on this a couple times, but I don't wanna say you have to create, like, a specific buddy system, like, "I'm gonna check on you every Tuesday," but check on your friends. Have the accountability groups, have the coffee and collaborations. If you suddenly don't see someone coming to something that's always at everything, check on them, call them, worst case, knock on their front door. Um, but just
Yeah, these don't have to be like, round table, let's sit and talk about our terrible days, like even you have a coffee and collaboration your way, and I have one that I go to usually every Friday. This summer has been crazy, but it's just, 5 to 10 agents that just show up, and we all either have a topic that we're discussing focused around real estate, or sometimes we just all show up, share a table, get a coffee, and work together. Sometimes we don't even talk, but we're there together. And sometimes that's all it really takes to get me personally. If I work just in the house for a few days, I'm a basket case. I'm a people person. I need other people to, like, I don't know, charge my battery sometimes. And then there's times that I don't want to be around people so I can charge my battery. I'm weird like that, but they don't have to be like, "Hey, let's have a meetup and let's have like a mental conversation." This is just something like, go get the coffee. Like you said, go meet up and, work on contracts together. Go on a Friday and have a get together and chat about, ways that we can talk buyers into doing this buyer agency thing. Whatever you need to do. But invest in yourself in that aspect, but also like pour into others, because in this industry, and I know that we're talking to realtors specifically, but if other people are out there, we're talking to moms, to teachers, to, firefighters and policemen. There are other people who know the things that you're personally going through, you know what I mean? As far as like a general genre of what you do and what your life looks like, give back to those people, pour into those people, and it will return, fill you back up too. So just just get out there, put yourself out there and make sure that you're not shutting down and closing the doors on people when you really need to be letting as much of the good back in as you can.
yeah, and work on, some personal, like, some strategies to help protect your mental health. So, like, Brenna and I have talked before about setting boundaries. Like, I mentioned one earlier. The buyer's agent wanted to call me at 8 o'clock at night, and I said, "No, I'm done for the day. Like, we can talk tomorrow. It's not a crazy situation here." Um, set up mental health breaks. Like, even if it's just during the day. Like, I knew recording this was going to be really hard. I have time blocked after. Mabel and I are going for a walk because I know endorphins or exercise creates endorphins. Endorphins make people happy and happy people, so on and so forth. Um, but take those mental health breaks. Like, Brenna, you went and got a massage yesterday. I'm sure that helped with your mental health. It was time for you specifically. Um, if it's a financial thing that's a stressor, see if you can find someone to help you organize and manage your finances so that you're not closing to closing. There's not that roller coaster.
Mhm.
Like, we
Yeah,
interviewed
because we've
Miranda
talked about,
before. Put in that
I was just gonna
profit
say
first.
Miranda.
Um, and I think there overall needs to be somewhat of a shift in our industry of prioritizing our mental health. Like, yes, our transactions important. Yes, our clients are important. At the same time, so are we. And if we don't take care of the things that are causing stress or aren't doing things to alleviate that stress, we're gonna continue to get these horrible phone calls. Um, so again, reach out to your friends, um, protect yourself. If and we are gonna put in the episode notes some resources. The CE shop has a couple of them. I found them on other websites. But we'll put those links in our um in our show notes. And just remember, like, you are not alone. If you need to, call us. My phone number is 980-213-9766. I will answer. If I don't answer, call me back. If I don't answer again for some reason, send me a text. It's because I'm probably busy and I don't recognize your number. But let me know, hey, I need to talk to someone. Um, you can get through this. You belong here and you're special and you deserve to see tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow looks good on you.
Tomorrow looks really good on you. So for now, we will see you guys next week. And I hope that each and every one of you are here with us next week and the week after. We love you.
Bye, guys. We just finished another episode of Contracts and Chaos, but believe me, the chaos does not stop here. So check out the show notes for our email address and where to follow us on socials, and we will see you next week.